proud soccer enthusiasts out there. Your favorite Messi impersonators are back here for Cinephellas. I am Coach Logan Myers. That's my good mate over there.
And I'm David Beckham. Welcome to our review. We are back again to review a TV show. It's airing on Showtime, a show that was talked about a lot over the past few seasons. It's coming into the third season this year. It just wrapped up its third season, actually. A lot of stuff happened. The story definitely moved forward this season and provided some answers and raised some new questions along the way. We are talking about Yellowjackets, season 3.
You really are insane.
Secrets will be spilled.
Those wild high school girls that got trapped in the Canadian wilderness. Plane crashes, of course, sets up the first season. Fast forward, a few seasons in, season three being the brand new season, it's going back and forth to their time in Canada and surviving, basically becoming cannibals. And then fast forward in the adult years, and of course, I'm talking about Shauna, Thaisa, Natalie, Misty, Lottie, Van, and much, much more, kind of going back and forth to the trauma, everything that happened to them as young kids, everything they encountered and went through to survive. And then fast forward in other years later as miserable adults. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how they're going to get off this island, weaving back and forth between the modern day and back when they were kids and trapped out in the wilderness, and, the alliances that they formed, a lot of similarities. Reminds me a lot of like the Survivor shows, having to survive out in the wilderness, coming across villains along the way within their own group, and then, trying to reach the outside world and hopefully get back home. And, a lot of the girls are going crazy out there in the wilderness, and some of them don't want to be found anymore. They feel more empowered and they're being called, and that basically the wilderness is alive, and they're being summoned to do all these things for the Mother Queen. And this season really dives into who the leader of this group is, and it also introduces us to some characters from the outside world, and we come across them about halfway point through the season. And of course, Joel McHale playing one of the characters, playing this survivor type guy that's leading these scientists out in the wilderness, and they eventually come across a group.
They finally get into the good stuff is like, obviously we know they get out of the Canadian wilderness because they show them as adults being parents and things like that. So they had to get out of here eventually. And it really dives into that this season. I love the whole like supernatural kind of presence thing going on, which we're still trying to figure out. But I think that's super cool. It's something they brought back with them from the wilderness back to their regular lives. They really kind of dive into that and start looking into that more. And I really like that a lot. I thought that was interesting. It's really spooky setup and how they're basically going downhill, like losing their minds, possessed in some way, and just playing these really sick games of killing people, eating them. But at the end of the day, they got to survive at the same time. It's the middle of the winter, so they're not going to have a lot to eat. And these characters change a lot. Half the group is just like, no, this is a life for me. The other half is like, all right, we need to get the hell out of here. So that's really introduces, Joe McHale and this group of people that show up. They're like, oh, is this the way out finally? And it really dives into that. And it goes a completely different way than I predicted.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see anything coming that happened here. Getting some answers as far as like the wilderness when they heard the voices and seeming like the trees were talking. You figured out what that was with the frogs, which is pretty interesting, which is why those researchers were there doing experiments and taking recordings of the frogs as they made those noises. So that's what you've been hearing out there, which was pretty cool the way that they did that. And then, we find out, who is killed and who these girls were eating, when we saw them back in season one, eating human meat and human flesh. And you find out that it's one of the crew there You probably can guess who it is there. Uncle Travis bites the dust this year, and in a very interesting way too. It was kind of crazy how it happened, how he was kind of held captive there. He found a little hideout with some supplies, and it led to, some of the other girls finding out that he'd been hiding that from them, and they sort of took him captive for a while. And we also learned about, back in season one when Misty had taken the flight recorder out of the airplane and hidden it too. That comes back this season too. Um, Very interestingly, and all leading up until the final couple episodes where eventually they're able to make contact with the outside world. But going back into the modern day, we got introduced to another character, in modern times that we hadn't seen before, an older Melissa played by Hilary Swank. And she, yeah, just pops in around the sixth or seventh episode, and a huge scene with Shauna, Melanie Lansky's character, and obviously there's no love lost between those two, and some shit goes down, and really leads into the final couple episodes, and you find out some crazy stuff that happens with that, and then of course Jeff, her husband Jeff, and her daughter Callie, they're all pretty involved with the main storyline this season with Lottie. And, we've learned about Lottie the first couple seasons here. She's, kind of the de facto cult leader and has a lot of these mystical abilities and whatnot. And, well, she ends up getting killed during the season. And it's all about figuring out the mystery of who killed Lottie. And, without spoiling anything, it goes in some interesting places that I didn't see coming and involves some people who are hopefully as this story gets to go into its final season, which I predict will probably be the next season four, we'll wrap up the story. It's all leading to some big things here, but there are a lot of good reveals this season, a lot of crazy games between the girls, going out and having to fight for survival, and picking the ultimate leader here, them trying to fight for that. Van was a big part of this season. The adult version of Van, learning that she had cancer, terminal cancer. So it's a lot about her relationship with Thaisa and the outside world. And yeah, a lot of stuff went down this season. It was a pretty action-packed season overall. And I'm going to say that I enjoyed this a little bit better even than the second season. I thought a lot happened. It was interesting, bringing in people from the outside world and giving us that little hint of how they're going to get off the island. And then, of course, the shit that goes down off the island with the murders and them having to come together again, all of them, and watching one of the big cast members ultimately meet their demise.
There's some big deaths this season, without giving too much away, but a few surprises along the way. And of course, the big part having to do with Shauna's family this season, which is a little predictable. I did see that coming. I'm like, yeah, it's probably that person that killed him. But everything besides that was pretty good. Both young and old cast members here. I thought they did a really good job this season. I just don't like the young Shauna. There's something about the actress it drives me nuts. I don't know, just like the delivery or something. It's just not a likable character, but that's the whole point. Like I was saying earlier, Melanie Linsky plays a really great adult Shauna, untrustworthy person, murder, and terrible wife, and she does great in that role. The only thing, big part of this that was missing this season, Juliette Lewis, one of my favorite actresses growing up as a kid. I loved the adult version of Natalie, and I thought her and Sophie Thatcher sound a lot alike. They kind of look alike, so I thought they did a great job. But you can
Mhm.
definitely feel that Juliette Lewis is missing this season. It's missing a little something on the adult cast. But of course, Christina Ricci playing Misty, adult version, manipulative, untrustworthy person as well, and everything she's doing with Elijah Wood's character this season, which was
Mhm.
interesting. Terrible human beings, and they didn't really learn a lot over these years. They're still dealing with a lot of things they dealt with as kids, and even as grown adults, they're still having a lot of problems and failed marriages and jobs and cancer and everything they come across. So I can see this, wrapping up. It's not going to be a happy ending. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, big stuff, players in this season. I like Joel McHale's addition, the smaller role. showing up with the Canadian wilderness and the kids and them going after him and a lot of cool kill scenes in this. Practical effects are always top notch. See some limbs and heads there, super bloody in the woods, and that supernatural backdrop. The younger cast here, I thought that was really cool and eerie, keeps you guessing, and there's some pretty good action in this too. At the same time, a lot was on the line, big surprises, and we got some answers finally as well, leading up to the very end of this season. They come back for one more season. I'll definitely be watching it and having a good time with it. Didn't hate this season as much as everybody else did. I thought it was enjoyable. Had a great time watching this each week and seeing what happens next, and I would recommend it. So with that being said, I'm going to give Yellowjackets season 3. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Juliette Lewis hair pieces.
Sophie Thatcher was the obvious MVP out of the young cast, and
Always,
she didn't really
always.
have that much to do this season. Like her story, like was on the back burner, which was weird because her career's blowing up in the movies and outside this. So just wondering if maybe I don't know what the writing was all about. The Natalie character they kind of abandoned for some reason, which is weird with Juliette Lewis too. So definitely missed that. Agree with you about the young Shauna. It's just one note. She's always a scowl on her face. There's never any happy moments. It's a completely miserable person. Um, the young teen Van, Liv Hawson, Hewson, I thought she was really good. She was really excellent. Um, Misty, everybody, yeah, Christina Ricci is awesome. The older version had a lot more to do this season. It was a bigger focus on the adult versions and bringing everything together, tying everything up this season, and having to do with Lottie and her death and trying to figure that out. Elijah would have liked to seen more out of his character. They kind of brought him in, and I do like his interactions with Misty, very cool. But yeah, they just needed to give him a little bit bigger role here rather than, you know, trying to crack a case. I thought there could have been a little more there. He's such a awesome actor, and would have been nice to see more of him. But yeah, overall, I was entertained with this season. There were some great gory moments here, a lot of cool reveals, and I thought the last 3 episodes were really strong, and a lot of stuff happened, a lot of answers, a few more questions, and it feels like it's headed towards the ending point now, as far as the story goes. On the final shot and seeing how that came together, that was cool, and a cool callback. Still no announcement on season 4. Sure hope they get to do one more. It would suck to leave off there, but if it did, that was kind of cool. Like you could kind of wrap it up with that, in a way. But I do hope they come back for at least one more. So overall, I enjoyed this season. Is it as strong as season 1? No, but I think I did like season 3 a little bit better than season 2, as far as everybody was involved. Just a couple minor annoyances here and there and some predictable moments, but overall, pretty fun watch, and I hope it comes back for one more at least. So with that being said, I'm going to give Yellowjackets season 3. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 Jeff hair pieces.
I want to hear from all you Showtime subscribers out there. What did you like about Yellowjackets season 3? What didn't you like about it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out these wild uncles on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie news, and reviews.
That's right. We'll be back for all new reviews all this week. We've got a bunch of TV shows and movies to review. April is full of movies and shows. We're going to be headed to the local cinema here all month. A lot of shows premiering. We can't wait to dive in. So stay tuned to this here YouTube channel. And please like and subscribe as always. And we love to hear from you guys. Even when you guys don't agree, comment and let us know. So until the next Cinephellas TV review, I'm Uncle Henry.
And I'm Christina Ricci, signing out to the next TV review. Cheers!
Cheers!